To 11,000 RPM. 11,000.
They're building their own engine to a relatively new manufacturer. You know, people used to outsource the engine from someone else. They can do the development, but that is remarkable, and it makes it actually a really rather nice sound. So
This one is
Depending on the spec, it is 6 seats, but the driver sits in front of the passenger. One of our colleagues the other day, he sat behind the driver, had to go around the motor circuit. It was absolutely terrifying, but really enjoyed it, and it's a real privilege to see this. It's really fantastic.
So 3D printing and that sort of performance, 1250 horsepower appeals. Don't look it up under Z, there's a C in front of it. CZINGER, so the Zinger 21C. Ferrari land, there's an awful lot of new Ferrari machinery. And this one is blue and yellow, and what can you tell us about it?
Ferrari FXXK Evo. This is the cars. First we had the XX, which was based on the Ferrari Enzo. We had the 599XX and the Evo version of that as well. This is based on the LaFerrari, and it's got hybrid powertrain. It's more than 1,000 horsepower. It's just an absolute monster, and it's basically you buy one of these Ferrari and you just get better and better, improve your lap times, use data to get better, their pro drivers come along and just learn in a car with a huge V12 that absolutely screams.
It is, and the FFX owners, they get an awful lot of track time. In my eye, that is the prettiest the FFX is so far. Wasn't a great fan of the Enzo one. The two other Ferraris backing in behind, but again, we talked about them earlier in the day. Quite a lot of design.
That is a one-off V12 naturally aspirated, more than 800 horsepower. Again, kind of how we saw the Aston Martin V12 Vantage Street this morning. It's a drop-top V12, no windscreen, real drive, big power.
Racing for a very long time, and actually a Ferrari display driver for a long time too. So a safe pair of hands. Ferrari Monza SP2, and we really appreciate the variety of these different cars. They're super dynamic, but what I love, they make different sounds and absolutely the same, but it all went the same way because the computer said so. It wouldn't be such an exciting place to be.
Well, this one will be.
When you're in one of these cars, you can't see at the top of the hay bales. It really does feel like a tunnel up there at the top of the hill. So, a little bit of corner cutting down the bottom of the hill. You get away with it. The further up the course you get, the more it seems to narrow. But this red Ferrari running just in front of the house and approaching Moulcombe. Well, lights on, there's a little bit of a flash. Getting the car balanced and up the hill until it goes. But again, this morning it was rather greasy. There's been a little bit of rain, followed by a little bit more. They had windscreen wipers on, but now the drivers know the hill better, and the conditions far, far better. Past the famous split wall, and then almost everywhere, still on the few parts of the track, there's actually a little bit of grass on either side, then back between the bales, between the trees, and the hill climb course completed. But of course, while that is happening further down the hill, we have other Ferraris.
Ferrari Verona, yes, probably one of the what we're going to take away a lot of the more visible aerodynamic devices. Everything's quite hidden. You've got a little rear wing there that comes up, I think above about 70 miles an hour. So most of the time, you know, there's very clever aero work going on there, but it doesn't give away.
I think it's extremely elegant, and I think in that dark grey, it's charcoal grey, it's a really, really good looking car. And I said earlier, you know, you sort of think I've got a high performance car, but ask yourself how much of that high performance is all the time. In your face. Now, the Radford Lotus Type 62-2, catchy name, but Eric Quick on board.
Yeah, so this uses the same V6 that Lotus was using. It uses it now in the Emira, but also so it kind of comes up really easy. You can get them at 500 horsepower, 600 horsepower, depending on the spec. But this is what's called the Jensen button's been behind, and it's just fantastic to see it running. We've seen it at Goodwood quite a few times, but it's always been fantastic to see it on the move.
Very, very much so, and those unusual rear flip-ups again. That's almost going back to the late 1960s when that was only in '68 that aerodynamic aerofoils and things were put onto Formula One cars. They were small and immediately became huge, but suddenly road cars starting to have those little flip-ups ahead of the rear wheel. Just to do that thing called, well, grab hold of it, downforce. What can we get? Make it faster. So just to re-emphasise, Russell involved with the Radford Lotus with Ant Anstead, isn't it? They've worked together on this project. So through the finish line that goes. But again, just it looks different to others. And then Porsche, of course, we have many evocations of that. And this one was very good this morning. It was actually a massive twist. The inside was a little bit greasy, then a little bit more. But the handling of that car was so good that it was hauled back into line quite easily. Or maybe that was just a very good driver.
This is the Kalmar Automotive 797. This is from Denmark. This is for the time winner has been involved with.
Well, if it's good enough for Tom, I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's good enough for you, because what Tom doesn't know about racing cars isn't worth looking at. And after all success and builds it up from there. Now, this is a little less subtle, a little more in-your-face performance. It's red, it's black, and it's got an enormous, absolutely huge rear wing.
Yeah, this is the Zenvo TFRS. So basically, when you're going through a corner, the rear wheel will move to provide you enough support on whichever corner the car needs. Basically, just a cruise downforce, cruise good. If the rear wheel is just staying still, it's absolutely baffling to watch.
It really is. I mean, if I see that on a racing circuit, I think they've hit something. It's not going to be good. And the McLaren Artura are very nearly going off at Vulcan corner. Runs the angling forward to help with the braking, a bit like the air brakes they had on the Mercedes back at the more in the mid-1950s. It seems as though someone's forgotten to put a few bolts in there, but obviously it all worked out. I spoke to Alberto last year, until you see it in the flesh.
Maserati MC20, we saw this make his debut last year. It's the return.
I like it a lot, because the MC12 was a fabulous racing car and won several championships. Really successful in FIA GT racing, but it's very much a road version. But it's so lovely. Sometimes I was saying earlier, if you go up next to a car, you see it in the pictures, it looks so. You go up and you just notice those little details. I haven't seen how that was driven. It also looks extremely sorted. So that's the MC20 Maserati across the finish line. And still the cars come thick and fast. This is a big batch of supercars. The Michelin Supercar run has grown and grown. Really is a truly astonishing assembly of cars. And it's the shop window. It's a dynamic shop window. And we're very much appreciative of that. Lanzanti, then, if you call that, the 913 tag, so it's an echo of the racing Porsches from the day, but turbocharged. Of course, Porsche staunchly had their 911s with turbos on board. It looked normal, you press the clock. They were absolutely epic in the late 70s, early 80s, well, probably early 80s as turbo technology really started to come in, but great to see that here.
And to get the most out of it, you've really got to be awake, you've got to be on your toes. It's an intense driving experience, lots of power, not much weight. Of course, Lanzanti will do everything you possibly can to make it drivable as possible, as fun as possible, but it's a very serious bit of kit.
It really is. In fact, there's nothing that's a flippant bit of kit here. He says McLaren goes past the window and up the hill. That was a P1 from McLaren Automotive. Aston Martin's big presence here at the Festival of Speed. They've always been staunch supporters. Which is this one in that glorious dark green?
One edition. This is the Roadster twin turbo V8 engine from Mercedes-AMG. Powered in the regular Vantage Roadster. Got that rear wing, of course, on the back. You've got the one edition badges on the side and the front wheel arches. A bit more carbon fibre, a bit more money, a bit more.
The rear wing. I'm going to take a look, or the rear window. The top of the window, can't quite see. But ironically, it actually did leave the line quite quietly.
That is the slogan for this car, never leave quietly, because again, we're getting into that time where these kind of cars will stop being produced. You can't build huge power V12 engines forever. So it's under 400 cars. And yeah, it's in the smallest car. bit of a hassle.
No, but that's the sort of technology that's appealed ever since you think, well, almost since time began, but certainly once we got to the 60s and people suddenly realised that actually, why have a really complicated engine when you can get an engine from Ford or Chevrolet in the States and put it in whatever, and it will provide the noise and the grunt and the fun. But I think that looks absolutely exquisite, the V12 Vantage. That's very special.
And it's interesting as well how Aston Martin have taken, with the previous generation V12 Vantage, it started off as, you know, essentially just a Vantage with a V12 engine in it, but they ramped it up, whereas that they've gone straight into the deep end.
Now, the AMG the tractor is on the hill, but another Mercedes is stopped up ahead and it raises the rear wing. This is the Super
So what it's just done there, it's gone from highway mode, which is just when you're cruising along, now it's gone flat mode. So the front drops by 37mm, the rear drops by 30mm. Mercedes tries to get 5 times more downforce with everything. All these little louvers, as it will possibly go.
5 times more downforce. It's doing that. I mean, it's a huge wing and it's angled up. That's astonishing.
But there's more aerodynamic work than you can just see by looking at it here. There's stuff going on under the floor, there's stuff going on behind the wheel arches. Increased downforce, but more than 1,000 horsepower, 1,063 horsepower, 11,000 RPM. The engine from a Mercedes Formula 1 car, 1.6 litre turbocharged V6.
I mean, we've always banged the drum and taken the maximum racing improved to breathe, but just realising, just when you're touching on those elements, not just the engine coming across, but all the understanding of aerodynamics and the tricks that try and find the downforce, which has been ever since wings started appearing on road cars as well as race cars, the thing to have.
And whoever is driving that is having the absolute time of their lives. Oversteer through Malcolm is something that only very brave people attempt.
Well, it's Yvonne Mather at the wheel, and I can't see. Yes, as a passenger is there as well. They might have gone beyond their comfort zone at that point, but as a passenger, there's nothing you can do. But Yvonne choosing a remarkable ride in that replay. They always do things slightly differently, but that was noise in the replay. I think, yes, coming up a little bit sideways. Even before it's got to the house, weaving around maybe, but well, actually, I think the game here is.
He's crashing it in.
In the reback of Malcolm and then hung the tail out as well. But, well, that's one for the fans and might have scored a few cups of tea in the hospitality area. And that is just remarkable little adjustment to the wheel. The tail is out. That is all on the throttle. That's fabulous.
Well, it shows just how clever the calibration is. But also a lot of knowledge and commitment.
So Jack Bartholomew at the wheel. He's a racer of a Aventador LP 784 Ultimate, the end of the Aventador run. A lot of letters, and in fact now has to back off because